Hi, I'm Old Norse specialist Dr. Jackson Crawford. And in all my years of translating for movies, TV, video games, and occasionally other projects, there is still no phrase that I'm asked for more from people of all walks of life for all kinds of reasons than the simple two words in Old Norse, to Valhalla. In this video, just as a public service to get this over with, I'm just going to tell you what it really is. And then for those who want to get into the nitty gritty, I'm going to explain why it is what it is. So, just to get it out there, in Old Norse, to Valhalla is til Valhallar. Til Valhallar. Now, that is reconstructed medieval pronunciation. If you want to say it with modern Icelandic pronunciation, it's til Valhallar, til Valhallar, with the significant change being that double L goes from sounding like, well, a double L to TL. Now, the runes that you see there are not the well-known Elder Futhark, the 24-letter runic alphabet used up to, this is the key word, up to about 700 or so in Scandinavia. After 700, as we get into the period in which the language we actually call Old Norse is spoken, and we actually get into the Viking Age and the time that our earliest poems about the Norse gods such as Odin, Thor, and Loki survive from, the language transitions from being written in the Elder Futhark to being written in a 16-letter alphabet called the Younger Futhark, and that's what you see here. In fact, it is ahistorical. It is as wrong as writing LOL WTF in, I don't know, in those Gothic letters, those curly Gothic letters, to write Old Norse in the Elder Futhark, the 24-letter alphabet. So this is the alphabet that would actually be recognizable in the Viking Age. If you ever go to Scandinavia and you look at monuments from the Viking Age and you try to read the runes and you only know Elder Futhark, you're not going to be able to read a word of it because the alphabet is actually different in the Viking Age. All right, well, I had to get that off my chest. Now, after just a brief word from my sponsor here, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about why exactly it is til Valhallar and not some other form. All right, so the basic form of the name Valhalla, which is really the English and other modern form, I'll tell you why it's that form in a minute, in Old Norse is Valhol. Valr means a dead man on a battlefield. Old Norse has a specific word for that. And then hol, as you might be able to guess from its resemblance, is in fact the same as the English word hall. But, as you would know if you had taken only 2 lessons of my series of Old Norse lessons on YouTube, a feminine word like hol, which you can tell it's feminine if you know a little bit of Old Norse, has a genitive form, that is to say a possessive form, or the form that follows the preposition to, Old Norse til, which has a different vowel in it, a, and then you have the ending ar for that particular form. Til Valhallar is the correct form of Valhol after the preposition til. Now, in English and other modern languages, what happened in the 19th century was translators and other presenters of Norse mythology to the public at the time wanted to sort of fancy up the Old Norse words. They thought perhaps they looked a little too barbaric. And so they added A's to a lot of feminine names and words that didn't actually have A's at the end in Old Norse. That's why you see modern and back to the 19th century writers who talk about Valhalla instead of Valhol, Frigga instead of Frigg, Hela instead of Hel. Those are the 3 main ones. But in fact, the word in Old Norse is Valhol, with a change to Valhallar in the genitive form, which follows the preposition til. Now, you will sometimes see, I mean, the internet is full of people trying to do this, a form til Valhalla with the form that looks the same as the modern English word Valhalla. That, I suspect, comes from people either not knowing what the correct Old Norse form is, or perhaps using a modern Scandinavian language where that modern form Valhalla might be used. But that would not be historically correct in Old Norse. No self-respecting Viking or saga writer would put it that way. As to the way that I write the runes, a couple quick notes besides just the fact that it ought to be in younger Futhark instead of elder. You don't write double letters traditionally in the younger Futhark, certainly, usually in elder too. So there's just one L and the runic spelling. And then the R that I use at the end is not the typical R letter, the re, that looks like an English R, but the letter that actually comes from the old Elder Futhark runic letter for Z, because Z's develop into R's in Old Norse. But if the R came from an earlier Z, it was still written with that earlier letter well into the 1000s, so it's the correct Viking Age spelling. Also, if you just still happen to doubt my credentials and my ability to tell you how this word would look in Old Norse, let me actually just quote an Old Norse poem to you. In the poem, Voluspa and Skama, otherwise known as Hyndluljóð, which is usually included in the Poetic Edda. It's certainly included in my translation, although it's found in a different manuscript for most of the poems. It's found in the Flateyjarbók manuscript. This is the last half of stanza 1, spoken by the goddess Freyja to her friend Ottar. She says, Nú rukra, ríða við skuldum til Valhallar og til ves heilags. The night is dark, or if you want to be very literal, it is now twilight of twilights. We will ride to Valhalla, til Valhallar, and to the Holy Hall. So, don't just take my word for it. It's right there in one of the poems about the Norse gods preserved in the Poetic Edda. Now, if this sort of thing interests you, I have hundreds of other videos about Old Norse language and myth on my channel. Let me tell you about 4 that might interest you. There's Old Norse versus Modern Icelandic, a demonstration in which I talk about how Old Norse and Modern Icelandic are different from one another and some of the specific ways how. Then there's Runes, 5 Misconceptions, where I tell you about ideas like that Old Norse is written in Elder Futhark and why they're wrong. Then there's my new series of Old Norse lessons, starting with lesson 1, where you can actually learn the language yourself if you like. And then 4th, if you want to know a little bit more about Valhalla, there's one video about Valhalla I've made recently. For now, from beautiful Wyoming, let me wish you all the best.